reminder of the fire.
Melanie, can you gavel again so the voice comes up? They just
So, Maureen, you threw me. Okay. Oh, the fire exits. Just a reminder that the entries that you came into this room, into 512, and on either side of the blue curtain are exits, fire exits. This is the time for general public comments. Well, we have none. Okay, Karen's giving me. I thought she said, no, it's not. But, okay, so, and it looks like no one has signed up for public comments. Okay, so I will go on to the approval of the agenda. And this is the time, if you wish, board members, to remove an item from the consent calendar. Otherwise, may I have a motion for approval of the agenda? Joyce? Second? Marty? And discussion? All in favor? 7-0. I have a certificate for our newest board member, Marcy Hosford. And this is in recognition of completing 6 hours of physical training, which means that you are an expert on all things budget.
Okay, because I know math.
Yeah. You got your job. Okay.
No, thank you so much.
And we just came from a wonderful ceremony in the auditorium in which we honored so many fall sports, boys varsity cross country, girls varsity cross country. They were the Conference Division I champions, boys varsity soccer, Section 5, Class AA and Division, Monroe County champions, girls varsity soccer, Division I league champions, boys varsity volleyball, girls varsity volleyball, girls varsity gymnastics, Section 5 champions and league champions, girls varsity golf, girls varsity swimming and diving, Division I league champions, girls varsity tennis, girls varsity cheerleading, Section 5 Division I large team champions, varsity field hockey, Division I Monroe County and Section 5 Class A champions, and varsity football Division I league champions. Wow. The next part of our agenda is communications, and I didn't check if Sydney Barrett was in attendance. Yes, thank you, Sydney. Sydney is our school student advisor.
Good evening, everyone. I will be giving a brief update on events that have occurred throughout the high school and the district over the last few weeks. Here at the high school, the Demonstrate Racial Equality for All Mankind Club, also known as DREAM, held a powerful presentation on labels and stereotypes last Friday. Students discussed whether labels can be negative, positive, or both, watched videos about removing labels, and wrote their own #IamMore cards for the #IamMore campaign started by DREAM members. The I Am More cards will be posted on a bulletin board display and serve as a daily reminder that we are more than our physical appearance or what others say we are. The film, I'm Not Racist, Am I?, is coming back to Fairport High School. A community screening will be held on January 24th from 7 to 9:30 p.m., and in-school screenings will be on January 30th. After the film, facilitators will lead discussions. Come ready to experience something amazing and invaluable to our school and community. Fairport High School's Red Zone recently got nominated by the Top Student Section Twitter as one of the best student sections at sporting events. Make sure to head to the Top Student Section Twitter account to make sure Fairport wins this cool honor. The Youth Risk Behavior Survey will be given the week of February 6th to the students in 6th through 12th grade in the Fairport District. This anonymous survey is administered every 2 years and serves as a way to assess student health risk behavior. Last, over 100 juniors were inducted into National Honor Society last week. These students fulfilled certain leadership and academic requirements to be inducted into this great society of service and academia. Congrats to all inductees. I hope you all have a fantastic evening. Thank you.
Great report, Sydney, thank you. The next section is the President's report, and I am going to hand it over to the Board Advocacy Subcommittee report.
I think they voted for me to do that, right? Right, so we met as we start our new subcommittee, what is it, practices. Just yesterday we drafted, or started to draft, a vision statement. Is that something we wanted to share? Is that, at this point, it's not quite ready, but it gives you an outline. So I will read it off as it stands at this point, but it's open. It was, I don't know, I'm excited. I think advocacy is some of the fun parts, even though it can be frustrating to advocate for, right, appropriate education policies in this day and age where money seems to chase the dream rather than what's right for children sometimes. So this is what we came up with as our vision statement, still yet to develop a mission and to get other members of the community. We definitely want to broaden out so it's not just us, but to successfully get others. So children are the future leaders and citizens of our community. As a committee of Board of Education members, parents, and community members, we will advocate for local, state, and federal policies, practices, and legislation that promotes the education of the whole child, supporting well-informed practices. We will advocate as a group and individually, representing each child in the Fairport School District and for the broader national education community. Fairport Schools will stand as a beacon in public education. Our advocacy will be consistent and enduring as long as we have children to educate. We will never be satisfied with what is fleetingly popular, politically trendy, and profitably advantageous. Education of children and the whole child is our task. Advocating for them is our duty. Encouraging and inspiring other groups and individuals to join us is our charge. We will advocate for local, state, and federal education policy that aligns with developmentally appropriate practices and resources that provide the support to ensure our success. So that's the start of where we are and what we hope to accomplish, and inviting others to join us along the way.
So, can I ask a question? The three of you, right? So you're envisioning this not just to be a board, but a community?
Right, so we talked
work.
about, starting as a nucleus, organically developing a vision, and then inviting via many ways, PTA, facet, community members, to really try to put together a broad-based representation of Fairport in our district. And then we would advocate for, as Peter said, county, local, state, and federal advocacy targeting basically legislative people, regions, SED, for appropriate resources and funding for our school district. And the definition of what we'd be advocating for at the various levels would be really something determined by the broader group, not by the three of us. But the main focus we had for our advocacy focus was what's best for kids and what's needed for.
So it's not funding alone, but
Didn't stay on.
it's not funding, just funding,
No,
but
it's
if
it's not.
oh,
I think we'll decide that as we go along.
Okay.
What it will be, because I think it'll be whatever is needed. If it's SED we need to go to, if it's the legislators, if, what, I think the whole group will determine that as we go along. But I think the main thing I've found in all the years that I've been advocating here on the board is that it really works better if you have big numbers. We're a small group, and even when we go with Monroe County School Boards, we're still just board members and superintendents, and legislators really respond better to parents, citizens in general. So I think that if we're going to have letter writing and that type of thing, the more people we can get involved, the better if we're going to.
One thing we kind of hope to find out is at what point do at least a staff of all these representatives start recognizing that, hey, this is a serious enough topic that people are coming. So do they need 15 letters to show up? 50 letters or 100 letters, right? 1,000, we don't know, but the idea is once we get an understanding, we can start setting our goals. Becomes a smaller committee. I think there's a job for a smaller committee to track how the representatives are voting, get the word out, help people be informed. And then, you know, to try and encourage the larger group more and more, that here's the topics, here's the bullet points, and here's a deadline, right? Please get your letter in by this time period or something, so it doesn't just hang out there forever.
Another thing we talked about was that there are, in communities or districts close to us, there are advocacy groups in those districts as well. And I think Joyce talked about knowing somebody in Penfield that's part of an advocacy group there. And where we share common goals for advocating, then we'll join efforts. We'll create interfacing between the different groups. And not to say that we would do that all the time, but if we share a common theme or focus, again, combining Fairport with Penfield or Webster creates a little bit more power. And when you look at our locally representatives, they represent those communities, right? So if we have a common letter writing campaign between Webster, Penfield, and Fairport to Mark Johns and Rich Funky, well, guess what? That's their voting constituency, right? So it, again, back to the power in numbers, that adds more influence. And so advocating, you know, they have local offices. You know, we're not shy to go actually sit down in their office and talk to them face to face, but phone calls, letter writing campaigns, social media, there's lots of ways to advocate, and we'll use all of them.
And to show support when they do something that really is beneficial to children, we want to support them and make that known as well. We don't want to just be going after, you know, that we don't want to be pointing out the negative, we want to point out the positive, because sometimes Albany does do some really good things, and sometimes our local legislators advocate in a way that we feel is best for kids, so we want to point out both sides.
Right. So this is really the kickoff. I think we talked about tonight, kind of going through our vision, and then from here, we'll kind of refine our vision, put it down on letterhead or social media, and that start to recruit. And if anybody out in our vast audience is interested in joining our efforts, I mean, get a hold of me, Peter, or Joyce. We're going to create a distribution list and basically a roster, and we'll start to put together activities. And we'll bring cookies too, so.
He will.
I guess you are.
You're right.
I think the vision statement's quite good, really very nice, and seemed pretty polished to me already.
Well,
so,
you know our writer here.
Yeah.
What I like is that we don't, you said it earlier, so often people think we're only in it for the money. You know, give us more money and that will solve all of our problems, and that is nothing Fairport has ever done. We are in it because it's good for kids. And however, that was the first thing you said, and that's the piece that's has to be right at the top of everything that we do. It's good for kids.
Well, I thank you. I think our new subcommittee structure is off to a good start with the advocacy committee. So,
Thank you.
So, superintendent's report.
Thank you. Well, I think you know, the student athlete award ceremony that we just witnessed speaks volumes to, you know, the commitment to the whole child. I mean, there was 45 minutes of time well spent of celebration of our student athletes. And I think Coach Whitcomb says it best, you know, the 4 years of interscholastic athletics helps build the foundation for the next 40 years. And I think that's what we're in the business of trying to accomplish. So thank you. I know the board's proud. I'm proud to be a part of recognizing and celebrating their great accomplishments. Sydney did a great job talking about the Dream Club and the Friday Forum. I would like to thank Mr. Clark and his team for help arranging and organizing, the staff who commits to the Friday Forum of bringing students down to talk about important issues like racism and how can we give our students voices. They are the people that we need to give tools and resources. And the Dream Club provided the format for that this past week. And like Sydney said, I'm Not a Racist, MI is back in Rochester because of local area superintendents. I'm proud to be one of them, along with Mike Pirro, Jeff Crane, and Tom Putnam from Penfield, Pittsford, and West Irondequoit, to bring this screening back to the Rochester area. And we've branched out, Nazareth College of Rochester, St. John Fisher, local colleges are intricately involved in showing it to their constituencies, really to give our students and our community members the tools to be successful in conversations when it comes to race relations, because sadly, it's going to happen again, and there will be a time when we're going to be confronted to make decisions, to hold public forums, and it's up to us to provide our students with the skills and our community members the capacity to deal with important issues. I'm proud to say that our administrative team will be viewing I Am Not a Racist, Am I? On January 25th. Our staff will have an opportunity, and like Sydney said, the community will be available on January 24th from 7 o'clock to 9:30 in this very room. And our students will have an opportunity, that includes FHS and Minerva DeLand, to experience this incredible opportunity. So we're proud to be a part of that. It's interesting that you were talking about the advocacy committee, because that was at the forefront of what I wanted to share in my report. The political landscape is changing right in front of us, and it's amazing. Like, the next 24 hours are going to be very important for us on how we move forward, how we advocate. For one, Betsy DeVos, right now, I'm not sure, at 5 o'clock. Yep. So she was being nominated for the hearing for Secretary of Education is occurring right now. Now, on its face, that might sound harmless, but it's important, and I think this is at the heart of the advocacy committee, is that we understand what a Betsy DeVos Secretary of Education could mean for public education. And I think that we need to be aware about what are vouchers, what is school choice, and how does that affect public education? How does that affect federal funds that we receive in our schools to support incredible programming, some of our staff members? The implications are great. And when we talk about advocacy, it really makes a difference when you go down to Albany, and I'm learning this, and I've learned this, Joyce, you said it to me many different times, and I've seen my counterparts bring packs of signed papers to advocate to our legislators, because they're people just like you and I, right? They have homes, they have expectations that they need to fulfill. They're only as good as the information that they receive. And the advocacy committee and the advocacy that we put around these ideas of where our nation is headed towards with education are very important to our Fairport students and our Fairport programming. Within the next 24 hours, the Governor Cuomo, will be sharing his executive budget, and that will set the stage for the next several months on funding and how we will promote our programming here in Fairport. The two of the biggest items to watch in Governor Cuomo's budget report will be the college tuition. College tuition on its face sounds great. Hey, let's pay for college tuition. And he's saying if you're making $125,000 or less, you will have free college. That's what he's proposing. Well, that sounds good, but where does that money come from? There's only a certain amount of dollars that are allocated, and that impacts public education for our schools here in our communities. Again, another link to advocacy. Again, foundation aid, I've said it many different times. It's our main source of revenue since 2007. We have not received a fully funded foundation aid package of $75 million worth of unfunded foundation aid that we're supposed to be receiving based upon the formula. We're hoping that we can get at some of that this year, what's allotted to Fairport. But with a tax cap, limited revenue sources, it becomes a strong source of advocacy. So I greatly appreciate the board's commitment and willingness to have a subcommittee of advocacy, to get people involved. I think getting the community at large, from our Fairport school member community to the community at large, I think that's a great way to get the Fairport voice out and about. I'd really like to take a moment to talk about school start times. I'll be placing this up on the district website as well. Last year, the Board of Education accepted the district time committee's recommendations on the benefits of adjusting K-12 start times to align with research. The studies are clear. later start times benefit adolescents as a whole. This year, we have been determining the feasibility of implementing the goal. Specifically, we have been analyzing scenarios and scheduling implications of a time change. And we are trying to understand how they would translate in our real world here in Fairport. I will be sharing our findings to the Board of Education later this month, and together we could discuss how we could proceed. But it's important to note, either way, there will not be changes for next school year. It's just too soon. We said that if we do move forward with any type of school change or time change, we would give a year's notice, and we're not at that point. So there will not be changes in start times next year. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stevens, Treasurer's Report.
Okay, good evening. The Treasurer's Report we have before us is for the month ending November 2016. The general fund had a beginning balance of $81.9 million, receipts for the month of $7.6 million, disbursements of $15.2 million, leaving an ending balance of $74.3 million, approximately $8 million less than where we were in the previous year. I've talked about it before, reserve spending, and then some timing of some bills when they're paid. So, thank you.
Can I just ask, is there, you said timing of the bills, obviously we spent twice as much than we took in. So I'm hoping that won't happen very often. But what is the timing that makes this such a large number difference between input and output?
The timing is really referring to looking at November of last year compared to November of this year, and that could be just invoices coming in for accounts payable and so forth, simply things like that. We're still spending on pattern-wise in terms of where we would spend as a school district.
Now, how close are we to getting all of the state aid that is supposed to be coming to us? I know that comes on a
Paid throughout the year.
irregular basis.
So there's payments that will come in March. So we have not yet received all the state aid that's scheduled to be paid during this year. There's even some aid payments that are delayed until August, such as BOCES aid. So.
And then the other question I had, I noticed that we gave money to the library because we collect the taxes for them,
Yes.
therefore we give that to them. Have we given them all that they owe, that we owe? Or is that also going to be done on a
Nope,
irregular
that's
basis?
when we collect the money, and usually it's November timeline in terms of when we'll send the library their cash or move it into their bank account, because we're custodian for the accounts. So that would be the entire money.
Oh, so they have all their money, okay.
We make them whole and the county makes us whole, right, on the tax dollars.
The taxes are collected, they're right on the school tax bill, so if you look at your own tax bill, you'd see that there's a library portion on it. So the taxes are finished, they're turned over to the county in November, and then April will be the timing of when we receive the remaining taxes as a district, so.
Thank you. Next is the approval of the consent calendar. May I have a motion, please? Damon, second. Maureen? Vote. All in favor? 7-0. Next is personnel actions. May I have a motion, please? Damon? Second. Marty? Discussion? All in favor?
Oh, I did want to make
Oh.
a comment, can I?
Sure.
And it's just that it looks like we're getting a lot more substitute teachers coming in that actually have current certification, not working toward it. Is that, how's that backlog coming from the state? This seemed to be a better grouping, just number-wise.
I think that we're working hard on our recruitment efforts too, in terms of stepping forward to offer professional development opportunities to our substitutes. And I think that that might be helping us to attract some of the certificated teachers who need now to obtain that PD credit and not having another outlet in which to do it. So I think that's helping us more than, I'm not hearing anything about the backlog at the state and that moving any quicker, but we'll continue to monitor it.
Okay.
Anyone else? All in favor? 7-0. Non-instructional and civil service staff actions. May I have a motion, please? Marty? Second? Damon? Discussion? All in favor? 7-0. Next, we have the capital project update, our $29.2 million section of it.
Okay, so just as a quick introduction, we have Mark Esposito with Campus Construction Management Group with us. They'll be giving the presentation.
Good evening. Good to see everybody again. And we've had a very busy couple of weeks here with bidding, and have some good news to share with you as the presentation goes on. So, going to the first slide here, just a breakdown of the $29.2 million capital project that was approved in May of 2015. We have our incidental budget of $4,059,100. We have an adjusted construction contingency that we'll get into more depth on the next slide of $161,452. We have our current roofing masonry contracts that have been in place since this time last year. Work happened over the past summer of $15,742,677. And then we have our bids for the Phase 2 portion of work that just was bid on January 10th, and that we're looking to award contracts tonight with some more information still coming. The bids themselves came in a total of $8,230,680, and then we have some state contract items that go along with the Phase 2 work that includes auditorium seating, some playgrounds at various elementary buildings, and then some also DDC controls, which helps control the heating systems in all of the buildings. And that's just over $1 million worth of state contract items. So that are the 5 items that make up your $29.2 million capital project.
What does state, sorry, how's that different from the one above?
When we publicly bid, it brings in bidders, contractors locally are bidding these things. State contracts or different purchasing agreements are already publicly bid out loud, so they're information, so you don't have to go through the bidding process. It's expediting the process, and also allows you to work more closely with a preferred vendor. If there is for your DDC controls, they're already in your buildings. So to bring in a completely separate manufacturer would actually hurt your systems in a way. So this allows you to have a publicly bid number already associated with the project. So going into the construction contingency budget, we have right now, so we have adjusted this so we could balance out our $29.2 million project. So with adjusted of $161,452, we've already approved change orders, and we have more change orders tonight to approve for credits that were associated with the roofing contract. So to date, we will have $528,500 worth of credit change orders to help our construction contingency moving forward onto the Phase 2 and finishing the Phase 1 portion of this project. Will take us up to $689,952 into that construction contingency. As you can see also in the red number down below, we are still tracking $376,000 of additional credits in this project. So that would actually put our construction contingency up and over $1 million, putting us in a very comfortable place moving forward with the construction in Phase 2 and Phase 1. So just to give an update on the Phase 1 current work, what we have left on this project is high school roofing work and also at Jefferson Avenue Elementary, which both are scheduled to start up in the spring. And then the work that we just bid, as we reviewed in our November update, we have work here at the high school that includes the secure entry and main office renovations, toilet renovations throughout the building, locker room renovations, the PE locker rooms, new auditorium seating, carpeting going on in there, and then also an access road was part of our base bid that we'll be looking to award tonight. We also have alternates here of renovating and reconstructing the main parking lot by the main entrance of the building, including an additional small parking lot off of that to increase parking right outside the LGI here. Adding a memorial garden wall that's in the front portion of that building for a decorative aesthetic view of that front of the building. And then also on the rear part of the building with the events entry and corridor work back there on the, of this building. At Minerva, we had our base bid of exterior doors, and then we had an alternate for interior vestibule doors. So now, looking at doing both those alternates, we'd be able to do both sets of those doors inside of Minerva DeLand. And then Dudley and Northside both have the playground upgrades along with the parking lot upgrades and ventilation improvements to the building. And then Martha Brown, we have an access road, and at Jefferson Avenue, we have playground replacement. So that was the scope of work that we just bid for Phase 2. So I have just a visual of the high school areas here, just so everyone can get an idea of what we're looking at. So the green area in the front of the building are all areas that will be impacted by the secure entrance main office renovation. As you can see, we're taking over some rooms, and so the space that was will be vacated by the main office will become new stored, or new space for the high school area to be using. We have the corridor in the pink area coming down from that main office to the back side of the building. Will be renovated with new ceilings, lights, and flooring, and that was one of our alternates that we bid. And then also in the red area is the events entry with the canopy on the rear of the building for the events entry area. We have the auditorium highlighted in blue, where we get the new seating and carpet like we talked about, and then the locker room renovations in the purple areas. And then you can see scattered throughout the building bathrooms. And on the second floor, there's also bathrooms. I don't have a visual for that, but it's the stacked bathrooms that are on the front side of the building, so we'll be able to renovate both the second and first floor with the Phase 2 project. And then just a visual for the exterior of the building, just kind of show how the new parking lot in the front area here will be reconstructed, and then the small additional lot right outside the LGI in the green. The Memorial Garden wall and seating will be on the front side, so as you come into the high school area, you'll be able to see that. And then on the back side of the building, we have an access road back by the athletic field, and then also the new events entry area. We'll have some reconstruction with that canopy going in there. And then just to, with the award of the bids today, we'll get a project kickoff going here in January, along with submittals and being able to review all the documentation that needs to get submitted so we can start construction. But really looking to kick off construction during that February break, so we can get in there and do some of the demolition of areas while there's no students in the building, make sure we have set up our boundaries so we can continue construction going through. But we have the main office in some of the toilet areas in different areas of the building that we want to start during February break. And as we complete those toilet areas, we look to take on other ones, and we're trying to get the geared for your week breaks, where you have in April, you have another one. So to be trying to always be able to do demolition during those breaks so we can isolate ourselves for construction and working second shifts when students aren't in the building. And then we also have the locker rooms looking to start in the April break. And then really as we get to the summer, we'll be gearing up for our main push with the events entry on the back side of the building at the high school. And then all of the site work at the high school, site work at Northside and Dudley, waiting for the school year to be over. And then also all the other buildings will be working in the summer coming through.
The secure entry, what's the time frame for that for completion?
Be completed in the summer. So by September when we start up, and that's one reason trying to get a good start on it. Instead of impacting the beginning of a new school year, the thought process is getting ourselves in the building and working with the district and staff, so we're coordinated in aspects. So we can start the construction, get all the demolition out, work behind the scenes where we can build the walls and reconfigure the classrooms that we're taking over. And so that it's, when you get to the new school year, you get to a fresh start, and this is how you will be able to set your, with the new parking lot, accessing your building, you'll be able to put that protocol in place.
I'm assuming that the secure entry has been coordinated with transportation as well, so that we're dropping off and picking up kids at a place conducive to that new entrance?
Correct, there is that vestibule is opened up. It's one reason for the canopy that's gonna be put out there, so students, if it was inclement weather, could also be underneath the canopy if it was just raining, so they don't have to be hurdled inside. But it's also one of the reasons why the reconstruction of that front parking lot was requested. And with the available funds to do that was something that it was bid as an alternate. If it was able to be afforded, it makes for a great front entrance of the building. So,
Mark, when you say you're going to start toilet rooms during breaks, will they be specific projects that are done during that whole time period?
no, the
or-
demolition and the removal of the existing toilet room, so we could almost use the word gut the space. And so then bringing all the materials out and then putting them back together, it will be done on nights and some day shifts on the weekends. So they could put them back there. It's going to take, typically a bathroom takes about 8 weeks when you do these multiple bathrooms, because all the plumbing comes out of it and puts in new plumbing. So when we do a double stack bathroom, so we'll take a second floor and a first floor, because you take it right out, and you will be gutting both floors at one time and rebuilding those, and then as they get completed, then we would go on to another set. So it's not doing all the
So
bathrooms
it's
at
one
once.
set at a time?
Correct.
Not, okay.
And it's strategically placed around the building, so we know we can't take the entire front bathrooms up, because then people would all have to walk to the back. So they're strategically placed throughout the building. So these are the complete bid values with all of the alternates. We are recommending that the district accept all of the alternates that were bid, which included the entire scope of work that we reviewed back in November and just reviewed right now. So with a total, it would be the first 5 on these, the general trades contract 201, plumbing contract 202, HVAC contract 203, electrical contract 204, and site work contract 205 is what we're looking to award. We're currently still working through the state contract purchase ordering contracts with day automation for the DDC controls, game time with the playgrounds and the auditorium seating. These are just items that we're just making sure that we have all the proper pieces put in place to award those purchase order contracts. But they were not bid, so that's not something currently that we need to award to move on with our beginning of our project. So that was total up that just over $8 million worth of contracts. When you look at the entire Phase 2 scope of work, that brings us to that $9,236,771 that we've been tracking for Phase 2. Any questions?
For the game time
Yes.
playgrounds?
Correct. They are the supplier of the playgrounds that get installed, so they will do the installation and supply the materials. So at Jefferson Avenue, Dudley, and Northside Elementary, we're looking to replace those playgrounds.
Okay, for the 510,000.
As a total, that's all of them for one lump sum.
Okay.
And you're saying it's a state contract, so does the state say who we can use, or how does it work?
Correct. The state has publicly bid already these contracts, so they have one number that's utilized. And yes, that is the vendor game time that has been awarded that contract by the state.
So the state's already basically put it out for bid. They've already got a price back. So for us, we just, here's the vendor, here's the price, right? It's already
Correct.
negotiated. When was the last time the high school auditorium was renovated? Do we know? How long have those seats been in there?
Long time.
I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but there's only one person who would probably know that.
We're all looking, Mr. Zumbo.
The last time he,
I think there's a couple people in here that might have a memory.
It's going to be early
John,
2000s.
any thoughts?
I didn't hear, what was? Early 2000?
Well, I'm just wondering if we can have a,
We didn't replace the seats. All we did was pull the existing seats out, put them in the gym. Redid the floor and remounted the existing ones.
so those seats have been there through a few generations of Fairport students. I mean, I'm wondering if we can have a Yankee Stadium type sale where we can auction off the seats.
So, got the crippled seat in the front?
You have a place for them in your house?
I mean, I think everybody would want a Fairport auditorium seat somewhere in their house.
Damon does.
Yeah, just an idea.
I like it.
Another question, maybe it's not relative to this particular contract, but it's top of mind for me, if you don't mind me asking. But where are we with the water fountain renovations?
Yeah, our water testing program. We'll be updating formally in the very near future, but we're moving along at a very good pace. We're in a phase where all of the faucets that have been affected have been or are in the process of being replaced. And then after that, there needs to be a certain time where you flush and you monitor, and then we need to retest. And we'll be giving the logistical pieces and the nuances of our water testing program we're moving along. We're feeling comfortable with our progress. We've been working closely with our environmental hygienist, who is supporting us and giving us good feedback. And I really feel the way that Matt and his team have monitored and responded to it. We've become a leader around the county because of the process that we've used. So Matt, you could probably touch base a little bit more if you feel like I missed something.
Sure, you did a nice job at giving a brief overview, but we have replaced for several of the buildings, and then just recently, I know that our direct facilities met with the testing agency to start the retesting process of those who've replaced, but also meeting with the contractor to do the mass replacement of the other section of buildings that we have in the district. So, we'll give a formal update when we can have some of that information for you and lay out some additional details.
The thing I've learned about it wasn't, hey, let's go take care of this and let's be done with it. It's really a process, and there's steps that need to occur to get validity in
I think
pictures.
it's reassuring to know that there's focus, there's progress, and that, we'll get through it.
Yeah.
I think it's been about a year, right, or almost a year.
Over a year, yeah. Yeah.
I guess the last question I had regarding this, and it's good, great progress, exciting, but as we're making changes that are potentially disruptive to the academics that are happening in the buildings, are you coordinating with the people in the buildings? For example, the high school, as you're disrupting bathrooms front and back, I assume that the high school staff and administration's in the loop on planning what we're gonna decommission to make it.
There's user meetings, and, it's not gonna be perfect. I think the communication, though, has been really well-defined, articulated by Bob. Ross has been meeting with him, with the contractors as well, to sort of talk about the phasing and the stages. And again, communication is going to be going out to families, so they can expect that there's going to be some short-term inconveniences. We'll have a secured site, we'll have a safe site. That's our first priority. But we'll make sure that everybody is abreast, that it's on a timeline, and it's going to be a little uncomfortable at times, but learning will continue, and Bob knows, Mr. Clark knows that if there are major disruptions, or if there's things that go beyond, what we have had expected, we have the right channels to communicate our expectations as a school district, as a learning institution.
Thank you very much.
Next order of business are board policies, proposed second readings. May I have a motion, please? Mercy? Second? Joyce? Discussion? All in favor? 7-0. Textbook approval, may I, on culinary, advanced, and global,
It could be global.
whatever that is. May I have a motion, please? Maureen? Second? Joyce? Discussion?
Just a discussion about approving textbooks in general. I know we've talked about it before, but I haven't happened to have read this book. But I would say, just the process of who actually has reviewed the book, who's recommended it, just to understand where it's coming from, that's all.
It is a thorough process that I am happily going to ask Cass Wheeler, our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction, to explain. However, but being involved in it as a teacher at one point, as an administrator, and as a district level administrator, I think you'll be quite impressed on how thorough it is.
Just before you get started, it would be helpful when something like this is on the agenda to know where this is coming from, where this recommendation is coming from. Because otherwise,
Does it improve our test scores?
I mean, I can assume that there's a process behind it, but it'll be kind of specifically who's done the reviewing.
Yep, there absolutely is a process, and it starts with our lead teachers and directors. and they review the textbooks, and they review several textbooks, and then submit that to my office for, and there is actually a request committee that reviews it, and it goes over several key components of the textbook in terms of readability, in terms of are there online supplemental materials, what is the cost of the textbook, which courses is it designed for, how many students are participating in the course. So there's a whole worksheet that goes behind the recommendation form. This particular textbook was recommended by Susan Waltz and Sandy Hudak and the VAX teachers as well. So I'm happy to share that information with you. Every time I submit a textbook, I can submit that worksheet to you.
I appreciate the process and understanding kind of how a textbook recommendation comes to us. So that's good. Just anecdotally, is there any consideration to ebooks? For example, my kids are in college, and a lot of the books they have are, they rent them for a period of time, and they have them ebooks, so they don't have to buy the books. I'm not saying that's good or bad or indifferent. I'm just saying, is that something that we've thought about?
So one of the questions we always ask are the online availability, and all of the books have to be NIMAC accessible, meaning that there has to be an online component that is available before we even look at them. So all of the textbooks that we consider are NIMAC accessible. And in addition to that, we also look for supplemental online materials, websites that offer teacher support, that offer students some support, some videos and things like that. So that is part of the selection process that we look for that.
My last comment regarding textbooks is just so we're aware of it as a board, is that there are certain subjects. My daughter's in high school now. She's got a book at school, and she's got the same book at home. So they don't have to transport the books back and forth. And I understand these are big, thick, honking books, but we're buying 2 sets of books, right? So, I don't know what the process is for whether we buy 1 textbook or two textbooks, but there are some courses where they actually have a book at school and they have a book at home, and they.
So you could have a class set in your classroom that's used 5 times a day. And then the child could have their own book at home. It doesn't mean that the 120 kids that one secondary teacher has. But looking back to the old days when I was teaching, I would tell the kids to leave the textbook at home. It was for research and background, and I would have a certain number. If I was going to have group work, I'd have a certain number of textbooks in the classroom that they could access.
I think that's good, ultimately. I mean,
Is that-
otherwise, you'd have a lot of.
Yes,
front
ma'am,
and
your
back.
recollection is accurate.
When I was a kid, they used to give us the book and then tell us to go home and take a brown paper bag and make our own book cover and lug that thing back and forth.
and
Uphill both ways.
And was it touched by human hands then thereafter?
I thought once about complaining, then I remembered all those experiences and said, no, I like a classroom set.
Well, it's a good discussion. Thanks for being patient with me. Thanks, Gail.
All in favor? 7-0. So the next is change orders for change orders for the capital improvement project. And may I have a motion for that? Marty, second? Maureen, discussion?
Just relative to what was just presented, because these numbers don't match up with anything that's in there. Are these in addition to the 690 then? Asking back over there.
This was
These-
the first,
These numbers are included as part of that, on slide number 2,
Yes.
of the approved change orders.
So the part of the 528,500?
Yes, it is included in that, because if you remember, we already approved one close to $300,000 credit change order early on in the project. And then we had some miscellaneous change orders through that project, so that's That's the offsetting cost right now.
Okay, so it's not relative to the 376 below, which is what you're still tracking for
Correct.
future approval?
Correct. There is still above and beyond $376,000 worth of credit change orders the project team is tracking right now. That would be coming forward probably in front of the Board of Education once we get those resolved.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just want to, I guess, clarify. So these are credits, money we're expecting back, right? Just because,
You got the
so we're
parentheses.
we're approving that we want this money back. I just,
It's not a bad thing.
Well, I think we're approving that we'll take the money back, and then we're approving to
Then we'll
spend
spend
it.
it
Spend
on
more.
something else.
Matt, why don't you give a formal?
Yeah, if I could, if you remember back a little over a year ago when we started the process, we had $50,000 was our limit in terms of that the superintendent could approve for change orders. Even though this is a deduct change order, so a credit change order back to the district, it's with one contractor, it's a large amount, and I just felt it was important to bring this through for approval to get that $300,000 credit approved. So, yes, it will be credited back, and Elmer Davis is the roofing contractor, whose contract will be adjusted down.
It's not really money back, though, in terms of they haven't received full payment.
Correct.
So they just won't, yeah.
Just adjust the contract down, and we won't pay this amount.
Everyone in favor? Anyone? No, 7? Yeah.
can I ask one more question, Matt, just on it? So, not knowing the reason for these credits, though, is this a contractor that's going to be continuing to do work on more roofs?
Correct.
Yeah.
This contractor actually still has to do work at Jefferson Avenue and Fairport High School for the upcoming year. So his contract is will not be complete until the end of 2017.
I was asking if we were receiving these credits due to quality concerns we had, or, do you know what I mean? And then continuing to do work with this
Correct.
contractor, so.
So prior to removing the roof, he went up, the contractor went up there with an infrared camera to be able to find if there were problem areas in the roof, so he could be expecting where he could run into damage. Did not find more than 2 areas of damage, and the area of damage that we recall are very minimal. So instead of removing good insulation that's already on your roof and replacing it as his contract would call for, we did not purchase that additional material, so we were able to save on materials and labors that were not now utilized in the project, and that's what this credit's resulting from.
Thank you.
And if I could add, we're still, the change order you see tracking is still for the portions of the roof that have not yet been completed over at Jefferson Ave and the high school. So this is work that, of the roof work that has been completed, and feel comfortable that we could take these credit change orders.
Yep.
Okay, next section is board comments.
Bill? I thought
Did
we're
I
on D.
skip something? What did
I think
Oh,
we
and-
just voted for the credit change order, and I think we're on D,
I'm
the capital
sorry.
improvement project? Close, Marilyn.
Very interesting, very interesting.
Can you see your page?
Yep. Don't have it. Okay, so where are we? Okay, capital improvement project. May I have a motion, please? Maureen, second? Pete? Discussion?
Outline more what the 207,000 increase is here.
Yes, you see that the scope of work itself has changed from when we originally, there's been additional work that we bid as alternates, which in turn changes the manpower in terms of having that work be monitored. So the Director of Facilities and I, Ross Chula, met closely with Campus Construction Management, went over the schedule, and this was a number that we both felt comfortable to ensure that that work is indeed overseen through the whole process of the additional construction. So that's the reason. We'll wait till tonight until we knew what bids we'd be awarding.
Anyone else? All in favor? 7-0. Bid awards and contracts for capital improvement project. Motion, please. Joyce, second. Pete, discussion?
Again, holistically, Matt and/or Ross, you know, the recommendation of these firms for these bids or for these contracts, the process, just so we understand, you've done your due diligence in looking at different firms, looking at the bids, and from your professional guidance, this is the appropriate place to invest the money.
Yeah, so these are publicly bid contracts. It goes through the process, and you see there's several contracts because we have mechanical work, plumbing work, a general contractor, the other two, electrical, and site work. So we had several bidders, which was wonderful. We had a room full in here of the bidders, and you know, anywhere from 5 to 7 on each type of work. And then the construction management team vets and reviews the lowest responsible bidders. We did have a general trades contractor drop out because of an error in their bid itself. So, and it's carefully reviewed. I can say, you know, they meet with them, they interview them, ensure that they didn't miss any information in the specs to be sure the work itself was indeed bid correctly back to what we specified in the bid. Yep.
All in favor? 7-0. Now, board comments. Am I right? I have one comment. It's always such a thrill to award the scholar athletes several times a year. And I always hear a comment by the coaches that number one is their schoolwork. And that comes first, and that's going to be their future. But I always go back to my social studies teachers in high school and the old Greek ideal of strong mind and strong body. They go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. And so never downplay the importance of the physical, the sports, and all that entails, because if you don't have that health, you cannot have that strong mind also. So that's my comment. Okay, we have.
Wait, I want
Okay, oh, go ahead.
Well,
I gave a long
based on,
talk.
I was looking for somebody else, because, Brett, I wanted to piggyback a little bit on what you said earlier about advocacy and the political activities of what's going on right now. And the governor plans to give us free college. The constitutional requirement of the state of New York, they do not like to be reminded that it is their responsibility to provide for public education K-12. They want to give us something at the preschool level, they want to give us something at the college level, and they are not yet meeting their constitutional obligations at the K-12 level. And when this whole lawsuit started back in the 2000s, and it finally got settled, and we said, yes, we're going to have a system, and yes, we're going to have free public education, the state of New York at that time wanted to thought that an 8th grade education was appropriate. And that's what they said at that time. And they're still not even paying for that. But we really have to, I know we said it's not money, but it's for kids. And what's appropriate for kids is not the equivalency of the state of New York saying, we'll give you what it would cost to run a school district up to 8th grade. And that's their obligation. And I think we do need to put money and advocacy together. You know, just because when you started saying that, I suddenly said, the one thing legislators don't like to be told they have a job to do and they're not doing it well. It is their responsibility by the state of Constitution of New York State and by the United States Constitution to provide for the public education of the students of their state. And I just wanted to say that out loud because we, you know, they think throughout we're asking them to do what is their job. It's not us saying, oh, please, this is their job. And it bothers me when they say that we're not doing ours. So that's just me.
Well stated. Thank you. Yep. I only wish I said it as concisely as you did, and I think that was getting to the heart of what I was trying to share, so thank you.
One of the things that at legislative we've decided to use as a talking point, one of the topics when we go to Albany for our 2-day trip before the budget and all of that, is that we're going to not take a stand one way or the other on the college piece and not try to be taken off our message by talking about that, but rather just asking them, how will that affect
Public
education
their job.
K-12? That's where we need to pull the discussion, because we're afraid we will be pulled off of our mission. And so we just want to know from them, how is it going to affect K-12? What is that going to mean to these children that are K-12? So that'll be one of our talking points, either at the breakfast, possibly beginning there, but certainly when we go to Albany.
Yeah, ultimately, the education funding pie is this big. And when they talk about giving money for charter schools like DeVos does, or peeling money off for higher education, that pie doesn't get bigger. It's just our portion of that pie gets smaller, right? So that's the big concern, is that people think Fairport's great. We're not impacted by school vouchers or charter schools or anything because we're such a great district. And we are a great district, but the problem is our pie will not get bigger. The pie will get smaller. So I think that's the advocacy focus that we have. And that's the real concern we have right now as DeVos goes through her nomination hearing, and, you know, we'll see how that all works out. I did have a couple of quick comments. I sent you guys an email last week. I'm not sure if you got it, but there's a NISBA webinar on Tuesday, just an hour, 12 to 1, New York State budget analysis, free to us. So I did sign up for it, just an hour-long webinar. And then just to kind of piece together something you talked about, Brett, and that's school transportation times or start times and transportation cycles. It really is part of an overall larger vision, larger consideration for us as a board and you as a superintendent, that, you know, facility analysis, technology planning, transportation and start times, they're all kind of wrapped together in kind of a larger scope and a larger project. So I just think it's important for us to talk about those things together versus individual components. They all have to mesh together, and I think we've got a great opportunity as we talk about a capital project like this or other capital needs that we have in the future. If we mesh that together with transportation and technology and start times into one overall plan, I think it's an opportunity for us.
Well, you gave me a perfect segue to talk about really quickly. Building condition surveys are being processed as we speak, and that information will be shared with the board, I believe, at our next board workshop. Secondly is the classroom utilization study. We'll look exactly how we're using our classrooms, each of our spaces, and comparing that up against, you know, this is what we believe. So those ideas, as we forward think and plan, we can't lose, you know, what's at our substrate, which is that concept of time.
Anyone else?
Sure.
We now will go into executive session, and we have a couple of topics. After executive session, we will return to regular session, and there will be some action business taking place at that time. Can't guarantee what time that will be, because sometimes we get into long discussions, but we will be returning for some business. Thank you.
Need a motion to go to executive.
Maureen, second. Joyce, discussion? All in favor? Thanks, Joyce.
Hey, an hour-long meeting,
Approve benefits for employees who are non-collective bargaining staff on August 16th, 2016 at its business meeting. And whereas the Board of Education approved benefits identified on sheets labeled as, quote, benefits available to non-collective bargaining staff, end quote. And whereas the, quote, benefits available to non-collective bargaining staff, end quote, sheets provide that employees are eligible for a district contribution to a 105 health reimbursement account in the amount of $300 annually, quote, for those who are the primary enrollee in district offered health insurance, end quote. Now therefore, the Board of Education strikes the language in the, quote, benefits available to non-collective bargaining staff, end quote, as follows. 105 health reimbursement account. For those who are the primary enrollee in district-offered health insurance, they will be eligible for $300 annually, and now replaces the above language with the following. 105 health reimbursement account contributions for the 2016-17 school year. For an employee hired prior to January 1, 2017, and enrolled in district health insurance, the district will contribute $300 to an established health reimbursement account. This contribution will occur in or around January 2017. For an employee hired prior to January 1, 2017, and not enrolled in district health insurance, the district will contribute $300 to an established health reimbursement account, provided the employee is covered by another qualifying non-HRA group health plan. The district will not contribute to a health reimbursement account for an employee hired after January 1, 2017. That's the end of the resolution.
Okay, could I have a motion? Pass that resolution? No, we're gonna have a discussion after the motion. Okay, Joyce, second. Marty? Okay, discussion.
The intention of this is that if you aren't using our health insurance, you will not get the IRA, the HR piece. Is that what that last sentence says? It sounds like it cuts it off for everybody.
So,
The way the last sentence is read, it sounds like it cuts it off for everybody, not just the people who aren't using our health insurance. So is that what we meant?
so what it, for those people who had both the employee handbook and who also had the benefit sheet that you passed, those people would receive the contribution, but if they're hired after January 1 into the position, we will no longer fund the health reimbursement account,
If they're not taking healthcare.
period. Is how the draft resolution was written.
If they're not taking health care.
If they're not taking health care.
Right, but that's
If they're
not
take-
how
But that's not how it's written.
That was,
It just boldly said they're done. So unless they're taking our healthcare program.
So that would, you have to put that,
We could modify the draft resolution.
Okay.
I think we're gonna have to come back.
Or you can make that motion to.
I'd like to modify the draft resolution to include, to clarify, for those people not taking our health insurance program.
Okay, so there's a motion to
Amend
amend.
the draft
And-
resolution.
So Maureen's making that motion?
Yes.
Second? Marty? Discussion on the amendment.
good,
That was our original intention, was
yeah.
that, just that, the way that language was, it just sounded like it shut off everybody. And that wasn't, I think, our original intention.
Okay, the vote on the amendment? How many are for that?
do we want to hear what she's taking first? Like the wording?
A good idea?
The wording that I have is read back is that the last sentence of the draft resolution would be stricken and would be replaced and amended to, the district will not contribute to a health reimbursement account for an employee hired after January 1, 2017, and who is not enrolled in a district health insurance policy. You want it to be unless, I want to capture what you said, unless the employee is enrolled in a district health insurance policy.
Okay?
Do you want me to read it back one more time to be sure I accurately
Sure.
Okay. The district will not contribute to a health reimbursement account for an employee hired after January 1, 2017, unless the employee is enrolled in a district health insurance plan.
Yes.
So, what about the people hired before January?
I thought,
We
I thought we were gonna
Well-
continue it for this year.
Well,
They're
that's
up
why,
above.
And then it
But
was dropped.
that
They're up
says
above.
Anybody,
Hired after, so the one above is hired prior to.
but,
okay, but the person that was hired prior to is only gonna get it for 1 year.
right, I didn't hear that.
But now,
I agree with
So
you.
now you're saying anybody hired after January,
Doesn't get it.
but this person was hired before January.
So
could you read that
every
part to us
year,
again?
the board will have to approve benefit sheets that will identify if you're funding health reimbursement accounts, and if so, in what amount. So this resolution really will carry the board forward until June 30th.
Okay,
And then you'll have to talk about how you'll fund them in future years.
okay, thanks.
We just can't,
This is supposed to just get us to that
To-
point.
to
Yeah,
June.
we
because
just
it's a
can't say
yearly
right-
thing.
We just can't say right here that we're not gonna do it beyond.
Well,
Because
it will
those are
be in the
not
benefit
collected,
sheets
right?
for those who
Yeah.
opt out. It
It-
will say it on their benefit sheet that they are not getting it
It's a
But it's an
yearly
annual, it's an
thing.
annual
Right.
appointment.
for the non-collectives.
Okay, and you'll,
Yeah, it's an
Because they
annual.
could change,
I
they
won't
could,
forget
they
this
could opt in
all right,
to
okay.
our
Right.
medical.
All right,
Any
okay.
more discussion on that? So that's the amendment. All in favor of that amendment?
Thought we voted on the amendment.
Okay, so
Marcy
seven.
had to stop, and rightfully so.
Okay, so now we're going back to
Vote for the resolution.
voting for the resolution as amended. And so could I have
You already have that.
as amended?
No, I guess we have to.
Okay, so a motion to vote for the resolution as amended. Joyce. And seconded, Pete. Discussion on the as amended. Give you time to think.
I think it hits both parts, the people that are currently employed and the people in the next 6 months whom we might employ.
Right. So, all in favor? Okay, should we go to adjournment? Okay. I heard a whispered motion by Pete to adjourn, stage whisper, and second by Maureen. And discussion? Dana? No?
I'm good.
All in favor? 7-0. And what time is it? Okay, 9. And if I can remember this for Karen tomorrow, it'll be a miracle.